about your show too, your radio show and everything. Hello, everybody. Sorry we're a little late.
Hello.
Nothing short of technical difficulties with the brew, as usual. So now we have a special guest with us, JV Johnson. Thank you for joining us. We attempted to have this, a couple of weeks ago, but things were just miscommunicated. So now we have him on.
I'm just going to say I'm happy to be here, and I know we did try to do this before, but this seems to be the year of things just not going right, doesn't it? Everything is falling into that category. Everything.
I'm like, 2020 doesn't surprise me. Somebody put a meme up yesterday. And it looked like they said, "Oh, I was coming around the corner, I saw this huge spider." Right now, the spider was the half of the size of one of those trash cans that sit on the side of a city road, and I was like, am I stupid to ask this, but is that real? Because with 2020, like anything is possible. I was like,
everything is possible. Yes, absolutely.
You're not kidding. So the description that, I put up like a little brief description of JV. He owns radio stations. He has a radio show that he does nightly. It's still Beyond?
Beyond Reality Paranormal is the name of the show.
Okay, Beyond Reality Paranormal, which is awesome. And then former publisher of the TAPS ParaMagazine, but still does the radio shows and everything like that. So. Oh, and a paranormal investigator. So
all of the above, guilty as charged.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all fun. It's all fun. And one of the beautiful things about being part of any of that is that I get to meet and work with wonderful people like you guys. And I know our paths have crossed at paranormal events and shows and whatever it happens to be. And it's such a great community. And I just love being part of it.
It really is, especially if you manage to just do your own thing, and stay out of all the para drama, whatever's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you like us, the three of us, we're just like our own little circle. We're not a part of a big group. We're not, there's no politics involved. It's just, we do whatever, even with our show, there's no set rules, so, with that being said, I will, people that are watching can ask questions if they want, but I really would like you just to kind of introduce yourself and give your, oh my gosh. Thanks.
Wait,
sorry about that.
Why don't I have a makeup person that comes
I mean, you show me. You look a little bit more. Look, I was saying before we went on, I was like, look how professional you are. I'm like, I'm in my bathroom.
Oh, you're saying what? I should talk about what now? What were we talking?
Let's start with you. I want to start from the beginning, like how you got to where you are now, like what got you into the paranormal. Everybody wants to know that stuff, how it was working for TAPS ParaMagazine, like what was that involved with that, and then your radio show for sure.
Right.
How we can links to go to that and listen and all that fun stuff.
Well, it's interesting because I talk about the origins of this with a lot of my guests on my radio program because we talk about all of these same topics. However, one of the things that there's actually two things that keep coming up. It's a very common part of anybody's paranormal story. One of those things is the television show In Search with Leonard Nimoy, which I was a huge fan of as a kid. That show introduced me to things like Bigfoot, alien encounters, some ghost stories, some hauntings, some of the ideas that were also explored in the movie Chariot of the Gods, from Eric Van Daniken's book. All of these concepts that created a curiosity in me, I started to be exposed to through that television show back in the mid 70s when I was a little kid. And so you kind of file that away in the back of your mind. You always have this curiosity. And then my parents did this funny thing with their friends. Now, my parents were only 18 years older than me. So they, in retrospect, they weren't that much older. But, at the time, you don't realize that. But they had friends and they used to pile us all into this van. And they used to go, quote unquote, ghost hunting. And their version of ghost hunting was driving to some obscure cemetery, parking outside and telling ghost stories. Now they may have been imbibing in some kind of adult behavior there. I don't really know. I mean, they're, you know, who knows what they were really up to, but we were having a ball as kids because it was spooky. It was interesting. It was all those things. And the stories were pretty fascinating. And so that fueled the curiosity. So from a paranormal perspective, I had this burning interest in these topics, whether it was Bigfoot or whether it was ghosts. And then I had a best friend whose sister she was probably 6 years old at the time. And we were, I don't know, 8, maybe 9. And one day we're in the dining room, I'm staying at his house. We're in the dining room and she comes downstairs and she says, "Mommy, the shining lady is here playing with me." And of course it didn't like really register with me what she was saying. And the mom said, "Who's the shining lady, dear?" And whatever. And she said, "Well, you know, she's the lady that comes and watches me play when I'm playing in my room." It sent a chill down my spine when I was like 8 years old, and I realized what she was talking about. And in a couple of years later, when I was a little older enough to understand, the family started telling the stories about this woman in white that would show up and just watch over them in their house. And that was enough to make me say, okay, all right, I'm 12 years old at this point. I'm going to figure this out someday. I really want to know what the hell is going on here. So I'd say that's kind of the beginning of my paranormal curiosity. And to this day, I'm still searching for answers. I know you are. I know we all are. We've seen a real shift in the way pop culture accepts and handles some of this, where maybe 20 years ago, it was more of a backroom discussion. Now it's more of an accepted dining room table discussion. And I think these are all great steps forward in this effort to find some real answers.
True.
Sorry, I forgot that I muted. So that, because sometimes when I'm not muted, it kind of messes you up. So I mute myself and then I'm just like, you know,
yeah, I mean, that's how the paranormal stuff started for me. And of course, you know, then there's a big gap in my life when I did, you know, I went to high school and I went to college and I got into radio and all that stuff. And we can certainly talk about some of those things. But then Ghost Hunters came on the air, and that changed a lot of things for a lot of people, including me. And when Ghost Hunters first aired, the very first season, I made it a point. I wanted to find out more about the guys that were in the show. I wanted to find out more about what they did. And I made a point to taking a trip to where they were at one point. I met Jason and Grant within 3 minutes of being there. And we became very, very good friends. And it was that friendship that led to me becoming the publisher of the magazine and part owner of the magazine. And it was that friendship that led to the radio show I'm doing now. And I became a bit of a partner with them on a lot of different projects. And I would do the events with them, whether it was at the Stanley Hotel or the Mount Washington Hotel or Eastern State Penitentiary, whatever it was. I went to a couple of the filmings, particularly the live Halloween shows. So I really became involved in the Ghost Hunters culture. And that's kind of where I ended up today.
So how cool was first the Stanley Hotel?
Stanley Hotel is one of my favorite places for so many reasons. First of all, from a paranormal perspective, it's very active, so it's fun to explore in that regard. But secondly, it's just a gorgeous place in a gorgeous setting, in a gorgeous part of the country. I think I've been there probably a dozen times, each with a paranormal group doing a paranormal event, which they don't embrace anymore. They've changed their position on that. However, when they were doing it, it was so much fun. It was so fascinating. And I had some of my best experiences ever there.
That stinks. That seems to be happening to me. Like I have all these places like on my bucket list, like to want to go to, you know, but I mean, I guess I could always just like pretend I'm just going there for leisure and like walk around at night. You know what I mean?
I don't think they would stop you from doing that, but they don't have the organized events anymore.
Right. And so, I mean, I think it's awesome. Like I just put something up the other day because I was watching old school Ghost Hunters, you know what I mean? And I'm like, that's what set it for me. You know, I didn't know what I didn't know prior to my training and getting involved with ghost hunting. And that was like, even with the old Ghost Hunters, when I still wasn't involved with any group. I just knew I had an interest. I guess I was an enthusiast, you know, but prior to that, like now I know what I know way back. Like, I'm like, wow, I've had experiences probably my whole life But Ghost Hunters, Jason, Grant, and them guys, like they really totally, set, maybe, I guess, I don't want to say mentors. I didn't know them, but, it was something that I looked up to. And I said, they were, I mean, I watch it now and I still enjoy watching it because it's not a theatrical show. You know what I mean? It's not like this big, huge, oh my God, everything's a demon and trying to kill them. And you know what I mean? Like, and they're like, making the family scared out of their minds and leaving and tell them have a great day and nice Christmas, see you later, all kinds, so I watch it now and I'm like, and Ghost Nation now where, Jason and, they're on there, I mean, and Ghost Hunters now, like they're kind of, it's good to still see that there's still kind of realistic shows out there, like what we really do, and as opposed to, running around the cemetery and saying, throw something at me, kill me, whatever, if you're here. It said kill Zach and all this other stuff, So I love it. And I used to get that magazine.
Oh, nice.
And it was good. It was a good magazine.
We really enjoyed it. Obviously, the nature of print publications and print media has changed significantly in the last 5 years. Plus, when Jason and I started Beyond Reality, that was almost 5 years ago now. It just became impossible for me to publish the magazine plus do the radio show every night. One of them had to go, and it seemed like the electronic media was the way to to focus. And the print publication had to be put on hold for now. I've considered bringing it back in electronic form.
That would be cool.
And we might do that at some point. It's just not something we can handle right now. We still have a lot of stuff going on.
That would be great.
But your comments about paranormal reality television are well-founded. And, there are people that are critics of every show, whether it's Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures or whatever it is. And that's fine. But what I really, really enjoy about what's happened since Ghost Hunters premiered, 16 years ago, is that we're actually having these conversations. That's the real benefit of what's going on. Now, did they catch some good stuff on the show? Sure, they did. Did they catch definitive proof to answer every question we've got about the paranormal? No, nobody's done that yet.
Right.
But they have opened up the dialogue in a way that it hadn't been open before. And when Ghost Hunters went on the air, if you had done a search in Google search and said, paranormal groups, you might have found a dozen nationally. A year after Ghost Hunters went on the air, you'd find 10, 20,000.
Right.
Ghost Hunters provided a model for people to say, oh, this is how we can do it. And this is how we can actually take this interest we have and put that curiosity to some productive use and hopefully get some answers for not just us, but for other people that are having experiences. And they provided that, as you said kind of mentor thing, but it was like a role model of the way it can be done. And it can be done in a sane, scientific, constructive, and organized way. And I think that that's the greatest benefit that show and others like it had.
Right. Absolutely. And you see now of all the, it definitely is a learning. You never stop learning in this field. You know what I mean? And you never from what you used to do. And I'm going way back, but using compass and throwing powder on the floor, and using a tape recorder, and to now where it's like there's like devices made specifically just for what we do. I myself really don't use that much equipment, but you just see the field just evolve, and that's awesome, that it continues to do that. We're never going to have except if I always say, if I die before all of my paranormal friends, I promise you, I will give you guys, I will come back and I will give you guys.
I have to say though, there seems to be some barriers to that because Houdini said the same thing, and we still haven't gotten that message from him. And I was just thinking about this the other day, and I don't mean to talk about this and look for any sympathy. That's not the point. But I lost both of my parents in the last few years, and I lost my uncle, who was my godfather and my mentor in business, and there's somebody else I'm forgetting in there, but I've lost a lot of people that are very important to me in the last few years. And I keep thinking to myself, why hasn't one of them made their presence known to me? Now, someone would say, and I've had guests on my program, JV, they have. You aren't accepting the messages they're sending you. You know, whether it's a butterfly or whether it's a bird showing up on the windowsill or whatever. I mean, a song comes on, you know, that you connect with somebody at a very strange time. So maybe that's true. But I guess, you know, these are the questions that started when I was a little kid, continue today. You know, I don't know how I'd react if I opened my eyes in the middle of the night in bed and looked down and my dad was standing there. I'm not sure how I'd react. Right away, I might be startled. Absolutely. But then I would, you know, obviously I'd love to see him. I would absolutely love to see him again. It's been almost 6 years. And so it's strange. So you say that, yeah, if I go first, I'm going to let you guys know I'm here, but there seemed to be something going on the other side that just doesn't allow that at will.
You know, it's funny. I feel like, because my father, now I'm going, I mean, this past August is 20 years. We were very close, very close. You know, and I actually, you know, still have like prolonged grief and, you know what I mean? This and that. And I always thought the same thing. You know what I mean? Like I always thought, okay, you know, I thought at first it was because I'd be scared because I wasn't, you know, I was afraid of ghosts and stuff like that. Like I'd sleep with my back to my room and the lights on and music on so I couldn't hear, see or nothing. You know, I was like scared. You know, then I was like, all right, I did my training. I was part of a group. I became co-director. You know, it's like, I'm like, okay, Dad, I'm not scared anymore. You know, so come talk to me. Like, you know, right. All these people around me, my friends that are like mediums or, you know, like my ex-boyfriend at the time, he was my boyfriend at the time, but I mean, even he saw and I'm like, what the heck? I couldn't even, and he didn't even have anything to do with the paranormal. You know what I mean? Like he never even did it. You know, he saw my dad twice. And I'm like, what the heck, you know? And I think for me personally, I would say it's like, it was such a traumatic event that happened. I think I have to like for my heart to rest and be okay with it. Cause I feel like I get signs. I smell his cologne once in a while, you know, I hear the songs like you're saying, like all those signs. And I do think that some of those might be for us, more us to be like, oh yeah, they're still with us, you know, to make us feel a little bit better. But, I think if I was to see him, I think it would never be enough. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be enough time. I think it would throw me back, like, you know, and I think the spirit, you know, whatever you share with that person, that loved one, I think, I think it knows what you can handle and what you can't handle. So you could see some strange lady walking down the street that's not really there. And you're like, whatever. But if your dad or my dad, you know, like, how could your mind wrap your head around that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we sit here and say like, oh, it would be so cool. But then I'm like, if I really saw my dad standing in front of me, like, what would I do?
I know, that's exactly the point. If I woke up and my dad was standing next to my bed in the middle of the night, I don't know how I would react to that. I mean, I'd probably be very startled and frightened. I don't even know. And then, you know, and a couple hours later, I'd be like, oh man, what? You know, as it started to sink in, I would look at it very, very differently. But there is a startle factor. And, you know, I want to go back to something else you said, too. You were talking about equipment. And there are a lot of pieces of equipment. Many of them are controversial, but a lot of people use them with success. I honestly believe that other than maybe just a video camera, which will collect audio and video evidence, you know, the eyes and the ears are the most important equipment you've got. Absolutely. And in some cases, your sixth sense, gut feeling, whatever it happens to be. I found that to be right more often than, you know, a K2 meter or something like that. I think people overlook the importance of just listening and watching. I think that's huge.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you 1,000%. 1,000%. Because you think you have something like I think we're at a point where like, I know myself, I've had so many personal experiences and I have EVPs and I have a picture or two, you know, for me, who am I trying to prove this to anymore? You know what I mean? Like I surround myself with people who believe in it, you know, so who am I trying to prove? I'm not trying to prove it to anybody, you know, I want to have the experiences. And if I got something bleeping and colors or flashing and making noises and, you know, I'm going to miss it, you know?
So, I mean, how many people do you see on an investigation that have, regardless of what the piece of equipment is, but let's pick on the K2 meter just for a second. You know, they're looking at this meter and just watching the lights, not looking at what's going on around them or what's in front of them.
Distracted.
And very distracted. By the way, hello, Sabrina. Nice to see you. And so you kind of miss what you're actually looking for because you've defaulted to look at, as you said, lights and buzzers and meters and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's like I said, I'm not a fan of the equipment. So, you know, there's a lot of people that I go on investigations with that they just swear by it, you know, and you know, it's always cool to learn new things and watch new ways to investigate. I'm old school. So, you know, it's good to see and I'm not a very techie person. So for me, I like the basic stuff and have my experiences and share it with the people that I'm investigating with, you know? And Sabrina's somebody that I've been investigating with since I've got into this, you know what I mean? So, you know, we work well together, obviously, or she wouldn't, you know, we were very close. So it's, you know, it's a good thing. We got a good thing.
You're generally inseparable at the events I see you two at. So.
It's funny. Yeah. Penhurst last year, everybody was, you know, it was like, where's your wifey? Where's your wifey?
I was in between all the sweating because remember how hot that was?
Oh, it was crazy.
Remember how bad that was?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't even remember. Everything's a blur. When you had me on, I think Frank was like, oh, Sabrina, do something for me. Get on the radio. I'm like, okay. And I don't even remember any questions. I don't remember anything. I was like a blah, 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 blah. It was the Penhurst, and then it was the investigation, and we came back to the hotel, and I was mush. I don't even know how I function, you know, on live like that.
And then I jumped on and started talking about New Kids on the Block.
I literally don't remember. I was mush. So I probably made an ass of myself, and I apologize.
No, I don't think you did. I think you were fine. But everybody was wilted at that point. Wilted.
Yeah, we were wilted, all right.
I mean, can you imagine, you know, are you going to be at Phenomenology?
Probably. I haven't committed yet. But yeah,
probably. You gotta go.
It's hard for me to book out that far. It's hard to book out that far. But I love that event. I love Dana. I love what she does. And yeah, I'll probably be there. I would say
it's 110 degrees. That was that one, and it's in February, so it's going to be snowing and minus 10.
That's right. Yep, get the extremes.
It could be the complete opposite. It's going to be the complete opposite.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and which is even like there's nowhere like when it's cold like that, then you're going to have the entire hotel is just stuck inside drinking.
My favorite part. I love it when at the Phenomenology frequently will, you know, a bunch of people get out guitars and start playing stuff.
Yeah, it is. Fun. Yeah, that is fun.
I love doing that.
To bring your bass.
Well, I just want to say something before you answer. I know John Kelly's got a question. I am a virgin when it comes to Phenom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I will be de-virginized.
You will be, that's for sure.
Is that the word? De-virginized? Other words, but all right, we'll go with de-virginized.
I will.
Yeah, it's a good one to start with for sure. It's good. This rebirth of it, I think, is going to be great.
Rebirthing.
The rebirth.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So there was a question that came up, and he asked me, but I'm going to open it up to you guys. He said, when or if COVID is over, or I'm just going to say when. I don't want to say if.
That's right.
Where would you go to your best place for an investigation? I'll be honest with you. I've been there a million. And John, JV, and Sabrina and Anthony already know what I'm going to say. Probably everybody, but it's Gettysburg. That's my favorite place to investigate. I love it. I just got the. I don't know if you can see it. Hold on. I just got this tattooed on me.
Oh, nice.
It's the coordinates for Gettysburg.
Cool.
So when I'm like 90 and I have Alzheimer's and I break out of the nursing home, they're like, oh, where's this? Okay, we'll take her back there.
In fact, when you would ask me the first question about how did I get my start, I got into the TV show In Search Of, but I also mentioned there was another part of my youth that really led me the paranormal curiosity, and that was Gettysburg as well. And as you know, anytime you post something about Gettysburg, I'm the first one to like it because it's one of my favorite places, not just from a paranormal perspective, although it is great in that respect. But I love it. I love it because of the history. I love it because of the feel of it. I love it because of where it is in the country. I love it because of the geography of it. All of it is just fascinating. But if you look at it from strictly a paranormal point of view, there are so many people that I've had on my program, and I asked the question, hey, how did you get your start? And the first words out of their mouth, well, I was visiting Gettysburg, and then the story starts. And that's a really common story. It's a fabulous place.
It really is. And I agree with you. I actually started going to Gettysburg before I was into the paranormal. I didn't even know about, I grudgingly went with my mom. She wanted to go for the weekend to watch the reenactments. I'm like, and nobody else would go with her. I'm like, you wonder why nobody else is going with you, right? I was like, what is Gettysburg? What's in Gettysburg? And the second I stepped foot there, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the best place on earth. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's
and I don't know. I mean, so a lot of that may very well be the energy imprint that's there from what happened there, 155 years ago, whatever the number is. My math's probably not right. But the bottom line is that, 55,000 people spilled their blood into that land. That's a lot of tragedy and a lot of energy. I mean, it certainly explains the paranormal part of it, but it could also explain just the energy in general.
Yeah. And there's so many people that feel that, and not just paranormal investigators. I mean, there's just so many people that just say there's so many transplants to Gettysburg. People have moved there, and I hope to be one of them one day.
Yeah, I've often thought of having a nice little store on that, one of those main streets and selling whatever, whether it's, whatever it happens to be. And with the interest in the paranormal stuff there too, the number of ghost walks and ghost hunts, has exploded there. When I first go, and probably the same as you, Taryn, but when I first started going there, that wasn't even a thing. There was none of that there. And now there's a lot of it. And that really adds another element to the place.
Absolutely. So how did you go from maybe is it because of the technology? I don't know, but, from going from the magazine and this and that to, radio, like you just wake up one day and say, oh, I want to own a radio station.
Actually, no, it wasn't quite like that. My dad was really into electronics, particularly as it came to like hi-fi stereo gear. And most people don't appreciate that now, but back in the mid 70s, if you had a high-end hi-fi setup, it was a pretty cool thing, and you're playing your records and all that. And my dad was really into that, and he created a love in me for that. And that love led to me wanting to explore being a disc jockey, a radio station disc jockey. So when I was 16 years old, I'm riding my moped home from high school one day, and there's a little local radio station. I just pulled in. I walked in. I said, hi, my name is Jim, and I need a job. And they said, what can you do? And I said, I'll do anything. I'll take out the trash. I don't care. I just want to get into this business. And despite the fact that the odds were against me, that next weekend I was working there. And so I'm 16 years old. I'm learning how to be a radio disc jockey, and I fell in love with that business. And ultimately, it was about 18 years after that, I ended up buying my first radio stations. I built my company up to 15 radio stations, and I sold it all to a big company and kind of retired. And that's when I started working with Jason and Grant on the magazine, because I had some.
Okay. So that was prior to the magazine. So
well, it was, and then it's come back, because in 2009 I actually bought more stations back. I started again. I ended up buying a total of 5 stations that time. And I actually still only own one of them right now. I've sold the other 4. And the radio business is I realized when I bought back in that it was a completely different business than it had been when I was in it previously. So my radio show, the one I do now, has been syndicated on Westwood One Radio Networks, broadcast over 90 radio stations around the country. I'm not so interested in being an owner anymore. I just want to talk about the things I want to talk about with this microphone in front of me and these headphones on. And then I'll do it right from the confines of my home studio, and I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. That's what I just love this whole round table, just chatting and getting to, you know what I mean? Just talking about what you believe in, what I believe in, what Sabrina, Anthony, what anybody on here believes in. And I've become so open-minded to things like, I don't think people are crazy that believe in like the cryptozoology stuff. You know what I mean? I myself have never experienced it. Right. I would love to, I did go, Bigfoot hunting once, and there were some weird things that happened that were unexplainable, but no Bigfoot, sadly. I also have never seen a UFO, so I mean, like, but it's not, I have to see it, I guess, to have that, but I do believe other things exist in this world. I mean, we're outside this, wherever they come from, I don't know.
Universe.
Yeah, universe,
I believe if we're here, something else could be here too,
Yeah, exactly.
It's not impossible because we're here.
That's right.
Oh, absolutely. I just want to say really quick, we have somebody checking in from Scotland and we have somebody checking in from the UK.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and then somebody said, I just want to say, because she said that you are amazing.
Oh.
So I wanted to share it, but people are commenting. I don't know where.
I know there's a lot of comments really quickly.
Dana's on here. Hello. Megan's on here. Hello. Chuck came on. This is our circle people.
Yeah,
our pair peeps in the area.
Scotland, right? Yeah, Scotland. There was one in Scotland.
Oh! Somebody mentioned that. Go back. They live in an army barracks in.
Yeah, that's Scotland. Yeah.
Scotland. Oh, there it is. I live on an old army barracks in Glasgow, Scotland. Full history.
Can you imagine? I just. Oh my God.
Scotland, man.
I would love to see the pictures of that.
One thing I've never had the opportunity to do any paranormal investigating in Europe, but I've spent a lot of time in Europe, and I'm a huge fan of going to castles and historic sites. And those places are amazing just on their own. And I'd like to go back now that I have more knowledge and more experience with the paranormal part of this, and really feel that out, because it has to be phenomenal and it has to be unbelievable. We talk about things being old here in the United States if they're 50 years old. Over there, they're 500 years old and 1,000 years old, or in case of Roman ruins, 2,000 years old. And they're all over the place there. So it's quite a different feeling.
Yeah, my 50th, my target for my bucket list is Transylvania.
Oh,
so
yes, we're going to.
Yeah, that's been my bucket list for my 50th for years. So I'm just about there with the money. I'm going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, my bucket list is Italy. That's my.
Funny story about Italy. Just because we're telling stories here. My mother was born in Italy, so I'm half Italian. And I spent a couple summers in Italy with those relatives, with my grandparents who could speak Italian. I had a little bit, but not much. And my grandparents died in 1990 and 91. So I lost complete contact with all those folks until about 2 weeks ago. I had been searching through Facebook and online. I couldn't find any of them. I only knew the full name of one of them, one of my cousins. And I ultimately found a newspaper article a couple weeks ago that my cousin was a teacher at a school in a town called San Severo, which is where my grandmother grew up, Italy. And I reached out to the school, sent them a note and said, hey, would you mind passing this note on to Patricia Cardo, is her name, and let her know that her cousin in America wanted to reconnect. Sure enough, a couple weeks later, like a couple days ago, I got an email from her, and thank God Google Translate works, because we can actually communicate. And I'm going to go back over and visit them.
That's awesome.
I haven't seen them since 1987, which is, a few years ago, I think.
That's so awesome. Yeah, my family's from Calabria, and my grandmother was born there, and then came to New York. But I mean, I still have family there I've never met, you know, and I've had family that have gone over there to visit Italy, and they said that they just kind of looked them up. You know, I don't know how easy that is to do, but, you know, and they were just like, oh, come in, you know, come in, and my house is your house. Yeah. Over. Like, you know, it's like they were very welcoming to family, you know what I mean? So that's awesome. That's great. Yeah. Which is another place I think would be, you know, activity, you know what I mean? With all the religious and all the old architecture and all the old, I mean, I just
the Vatican is just like insane, and the Colosseum, and oh my God, the Pantheon, all of it, the ruins there too, just incredible.
You know, one of the things I've always really loved about Europe is that you can just, and I've done this a couple times, right? Like I land at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, I rent a car and I just drive, no agenda. I don't even look at see what road I'm on. I just go in whatever direction it is. And you find the most amazing things everywhere. And for example, one of these trips, I'm driving along and I just, middle of nowhere, there's this church. And I pull into the parking lot, go in this church. And in this church, they've got the tomb of King, I think it was King Henry II of France. And, and like 3 of his queens, and they're all in glass coffins. So you can see their remains. And, and this whole church was built on this site, which apparently it had, I'm probably going to butcher the story, but there was some miracle that occurred there, and some saint was named because of this miracle. So that church was on the site where the miracle occurred. And
now I'm going to have to find this. I don't know how I don't know this too.
Yeah, and it was like in the middle of nowhere, and you find those things everywhere. But and again, I have never looked at those things from a paranormal perspective, but I would love to do that, you know. And then every one of these churches has their in the crypt and the things. It's just an amazing place. I can't say enough about it.
I bet. And then Pompeii. I would love to see Pompeii. I would love to go to Pompeii. Just there's so much that I would want to do there. I'd be like, I would need to win the lottery and be like, all right, I'm going to Italy for like a month and a half to 2 months, guys. See you guys later. But yeah, so you go your radio shows nightly.
Yeah.
And then
the radio show is 11 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, but Friday nights I actually started a half hour earlier, and it's a little bit different. Friday night is it's kind of what you're doing here. We just talk about anything. I've got 3 co-hosts that join me. We're actually get a couple beers out and we just have fun. And that's our intro into the weekend, because since this COVID stuff started, nobody can go out and actually enjoy themselves. So we do it through the show. But Monday through Thursday nights, I have expert guests on the show every night. Tonight, I've got a guy who wrote a book about the mystery of James Strang. Does that name mean anything to anybody? Because it didn't to me.
No, I was going to say the last name maybe, but maybe not.
This very mysterious character who showed up in the Mormon church in the middle of the 19th century when Joseph Smith was assassinated and there was a power struggle for the Mormon church. James Strang took a bunch of followers, a few hundred, went to an island off the coast of Michigan, I guess, I think it was Lake Michigan, this little island, and created a kingdom. He became king of this island with these few hundred. It's an amazing story. And the author of a book, the book is called The King of Confidence. He's my guest tonight. He's going to tell the story. Wow. So, you know, we do stuff like that Monday through Thursday, more serious discussions. And then Friday, we kind of let our hair down a little bit and have fun.
So is it you have guests on that, like, you know, all spectrums of the paranormal, you know, like Bigfoot, UFOs, and, you know, ghosts, and, you know.
Yeah, everything. Last night we talked about past lives. The night before that, I had a psychic medium on who actually, I'm pretty skeptical when it comes to psychic mediums. You've got to do a lot to impress me. And the guy that I had on, his name was Mark Nelson. He started talking about my dad. And it came out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow, this is spot on stuff. This is pretty, to the point where he said, and he can't see this view. You guys have a view, but you can look over here. I've got this pair of glasses right here.
Yeah.
These are my dad's reading glasses. Now they're on this shelf. He's on the phone. He can't see what's going on here. And then for those of my YouTube viewers, my YouTube camera is over to my right. So all you can see is this way. You can't see those glasses. He starts talking about, your dad's talking about his glasses. I'm like, He said, "What's going on with the glasses?" I said, how is this even possible? My dad's glasses are right here. It was the weirdest thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it really makes you wonder about some people and their abilities. That's and the connection that they have.
Yeah.
So can we go back to like you've never had your dad say hi?
Right, exactly. So there you go. Right. And the other thing, and I'm going to kind of retreat on my statement there a little bit, because I have this phenomenon that happens to me in this studio. Hasn't happened in a couple months, but it's happened enough that it makes me scratch my head. Is that I'll be doing my show again. I'm facing these screens over here when I do my show, and I'll swear to God, there's a man standing to my right. I see it out of the corner of my eye, and and I do have people that watch me on YouTube, and they see things too. And in fact, the camera will try to focus on it.
Oh wow!
And then it'll stop. And so I asked the medium the other night. I said, I've had this phenomenon. Is that my dad? And he couldn't confirm it 100%, but he said it probably is. So anyway, so we talk about that stuff. We talk about Bigfoot. We talk about the Loch Ness Monster. We talk about the Bermuda Triangle. We talk a lot about aliens and UFOs. So we cover the gamut on the show. We have some really fantastic guests. I mean, I've been really, really fortunate to get some of these folks on the program, and it's just an honor to have many of them. Tomorrow night, Thursday night, I'm doing something that's a bit unique and out of character. I've got a Beatles expert coming on because I'm a huge Beatles fan.
I love Beatles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good that you have you kind of shift it around a little bit and change it up.
You have to. You got to.
We do too. Though.
We did too. We had something that was non-really paranormal. I mean, we had the producer of mystery, unsolved mysteries. So that he's a producer in the TV. So I mean that's different. So I mean it's intertwined a little bit, but to shift something around and do something a little different instead of the same thing over and over again. It's good to just get something fresh and new.
Yeah, you need variety. You need a little variety.
He's with I'm going to butcher it, Tony. So just. Matthias.
Matthias, yeah, from the Masonic, the Universal.
Yeah, Universal Freemasonry, United Federation of Lodges.
So I mean, different things like that. It's just a fresh thing to just kind of break it up every once in a while and try to intrigue people to understand and learn something new, especially things that are a little bit more complicated and misunderstood as well, like Masonic.
Honestly, what we investigate falls under several umbrellas, in my opinion. Spiritual mysticism. To really appreciate paranormal experiences, it does help a little bit to have knowledge of that.
Yeah.
I'm an Isaac Newton kind of follower. Here's a man that was brilliant, yet he still had faith.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his little nifty experiments that would for the non-believers. He would be like, "Well, you're a scientist. He discovered gravity, or he understood it. And then yet he could explain to somebody, well, you're a scientist. Why do you still believe in God?" And then he would have these nifty experiments. To, say, "Well, here, I'm going to give you this box, and I want you to make something out of it, do something with it." And people would start creating things in it. He's like, "There you go. You created something." It's just stuff like that, and it just makes you wonder. He always made you think. He's just one of those people. But if you go,
I wish we could get Isaac Newton on.
I know.
Can you imagine?
Well, that's like paranormal investigators.
Imagine dead from these people that were like.
Well, what about even Thomas Edison? I mean, Thomas Edison was trying to develop a machine to talk to people that have passed away. Unfortunately, he died before it was completed, but he was trying to create a device back then,
Yeah, he was completely convinced that it could work. And I think it was the ghost phone, the spirit phone. I don't know what it was, but he was trying to create that. And he died before it could be finished. Yeah.
Yeah. So you brought up two things I want to get your opinion about. You brought up past lives, and you brought up the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
So past lives. Do you believe in past lives?
No.
See, you're going to put me on the spot here. Because the way I approach these discussions on my show is I don't make a judgment. What I do is ask the questions. I let the people listening make their own judgments. Now, my thoughts specifically, I'm a spiritual, I'm not necessarily a churchgoer, but I'm a believer, and I believe there's something after this life. So whatever it is, I don't know. It's either, you know, it could be a heaven where we spend eternity. It could be an intermediary place where we spend a little bit of time, then we come back some other way. I'm not completely sold that we have any ability to remember lives that we've had prior to this one.
But do you believe we may have had lives prior to this one?
I believe it's possible. I will say I believe it's possible. I'm not convinced, but I'm certainly not close-minded to the idea.
Right. Yeah.
Is that fair? Is that a fair answer?
No, absolutely. 1000%. Yeah. I used to
just the two folks I had on last night, actually, they found through their meditation and their regression sessions that they had been together in 29 past lives. That was what they told us last night. The gentleman, his name was David Bettenhausen. He had full memory, not full memory, but memories of 42 total past lives, and she had something like 34 or something. But 29 of them they had been together in some form or another. And
they haven't learned their lesson, because I mean that's a lot of lies.
It's funny because a medium, I can't, and I feel bad that I don't remember who told me this. There was a medium, and they said to me that, you know, I've had, 12. I'm an old soul, and I've had all these lives, but they were like, you and your dad were actually had a relationship in some way, shape, or form of another in every single one of your lives, like. You've always been in each other's lives, and shared that love, in one way, shape, or form or another. And I was like, I'll just stick with the dad part. Is that really
it seems that the more I have conversations with people who talk about past lives, whether they've experienced, a regression session where they've uncovered their own, or they work with other people, this concept of soul groups seems to get more and more attention and discussion, whereby, you've got a group of people and their souls travel through time together, and they basically all go to the afterlife together. Then they come back together in another lifetime. I know it's an interesting concept. Sadly, this is one of those things that other than people's word, we don't have a lot of proof to be able to go one way or the other on it.
What about those people though that have like those near-death experiences, and like, you know what I mean? Like they actually like. They see what's happening to them when they're like dead, and like, or they see this and they see things. Like, you think it's dreams, or do you think they're really traveling?
The skeptics will say that this is the brain losing oxygen, and therefore it's playing tricks on you. And even though you may be quote unquote dying physically, your eyes, your ears, you still have some awareness that your brain tries to process. So the skeptics will say that. Having said that, I've had guests on the show and I've had medical doctors that have been in the presence of people in that state talk about the fact that there are things that happen, 15 minutes into a process whereby there's no way that person on the table or the bed or whatever it happens to be would have any idea that this was going on. There's no way they could have known it, yet they tell the story perfectly. So that has me thinking, there's something to that. And I also know from my own experiences, and I bet if not all of you, one or two of you have had this experience. I sat next to my mom when she passed away. And for the days leading up to that, she was talking about things like, oh, who's the man in the corner? I'm like, Mom, there's a man in the corner. No, there's a man in the corner. Who are these people that are here with the hats? Mom, there aren't people here there are people here with the hat. And, oh, I saw your grandmother last night. Mom, grandma's been dead for 20 years. No, I saw her last night. These are unbelievably chilling to me, and they've happened too often, and I've seen too much of this in the last 10 years of my life to think that there's not something really going on there.
Yeah,
that's a common pattern with what you're saying, like the visual beforehand. It's kind of like almost like a prepping.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's to prep them, to try to make them feel comfortable. Right. We put them in ease because they see family members, and that helps them transition into that. And so it seems to be a pattern with that. And when I watched my father-in-law pass away, I mean, I literally was seeing, like, I said, who's the dog? I'm seeing it. I mean, he's basically almost gone. You know what I mean? And I'm seeing a dog, I'm seeing a cat, I'm seeing family members. And I'm like, well, who's this dog? And I'm describing the dog. And he's like, well, that's the dog that he grew up with. So, I mean, even like, you know what I mean? He's seeing, and if you're sensitive enough, you could actually see and witness this. I mean, it was traumatic, but it was also beautiful in another sense, because you're witnessing something that's even the energy and even the lights flickering at the same time. I mean, there's something that happens as we are crossing that threshold. Definitely.
Yeah. And a story I've told several times on my program is that, as I said, I was sitting with my mom, and she'd been basically, not in a coma, but she was on morphine, so out of it for like 3 days before she ended up passing. And I sat there almost 24 hours a day with her. And 9:30 on a Monday morning, you know, as I'm watching the display and watching the heart rate drop, and I'm watching all those things happen, and I know the end is coming, so I stand up, I grab her hand, and I'm standing there. And when it all went silent, as I'm standing there, I've been in this room for 4 days straight, basically. Never, a curtain didn't buckle, the windows don't open, nothing. But as she passed, this breeze went across my face that was more pronounced than if I had been outside, you know, during an autumn, you know, blustery day. It was striking how strong that wind across my face was right after she died. I didn't feel it after that. I never felt it before that. It only happened at that moment, and I'm convinced, you know, that was my mother saying goodbye.
Yeah. I remember a pop. Yeah, speaking of that, I remember a pop. It's just like a pop, and when it actually happened too, it was like it literally, it was almost like the whole energy, like I can't even explain it. You could only be there to understand that. Right. It's sad, but it was also incredible at the same time, because as a paranormal investigator and as a sensitive and everything, you're looking at it both ends. You know what I mean? So it was just it was traumatizing, but it was also like, oh my God, I'm just witnessing something that the universe is showing me something completely different. And it makes me appreciate life and death too.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
So JV,
my grandmother, she had Alzheimer's towards the end, but she still was like kind of with it, and kind of like, you know, it was funny. I had fun with her. You know, she was this, you know, diehard Catholic, like fart was a curse word, you know. So as she started to get a little bit, you know, forgetful about stuff, you know, I'd be like, Nan, do boats and hoes, you know, or something, you know, and she would just do it, not knowing what she's doing, you know. So I used to mess with her. And we were sitting there one night, and now you would never, ever know that she was married to my grandfather, because Frank Sinatra was plastered over every wall and everything. Like Frank Sinatra was like, I would have thought was my grandfather, you know, growing up. Because there's one picture of my grandfather, and then everything else was Frank. And sadly, she didn't remember who he was, my grandfather. You know? And we're sitting there one night, and she's like, making this face. I was like, what's up? What's wrong? She's like, Bob's here. That was my grandfather's name. That was the first time I ever heard her say that name in, you know, since she had this, you know, awful disease, you know. And I said, Bob. And now I had an Uncle Bob. So I said, Bob, your son? And she's like, no, my husband. And I was like, oh. Now I'm really thinking this is just something. So I go, oh, what's he doing? She's like, well, he said he's waiting for us. And I'm like, us? I was like, whoa. I was like, you better tell Papa I ain't going anywhere anytime. So yeah, so that's, to me, is amazing. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I believe she really saw him. You know, some people would think that they're just seeing things, or they're hallucinating, or they're, you know, having a memory, whatever. But I think she really was seeing them, you know, and I think that's good. So go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry. I think you were about to say something.
No, I was just going to go back. You don't mind me going back, JV? So when my father was being buried in Fair Acres, New Mexico, this is in 1999, my grandma, my uncle, they were all like sitting in a line in chairs. My mother was there sitting with them. I was like, I wasn't in the same line, my sister. And then when the priest said ashes to ashes, that's where this breeze came through. I mean, in New Mexico, there was like, at the time, there was no wind. I remember it. There was no wind. And all of a sudden, as soon as he said that, there was this draft. So much so, it was as if, like, a tornado came through or something. I was kidding. Yeah. But my grandma spoke in Polish, and she was just all like startled and looked at my uncles. We all looked at each other. We can actually hear sighs. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts about that breeze, that wind, that?
Well, I mean, if you had asked me this prior to March 13th, 2017, I'd say coincidence. But having experienced it personally in a room where there was no air movement, there was no vents, there was nothing, I'd been there for days, and it happened, as right after my mom passed, I am 100% convinced that has something, there's a connection there. I don't know if it was her spirit leaving and brushing me on the way. I don't know if it was something, just whatever, she just somehow created something so that I know she was saying goodbye. I don't know the answer, but it happened. So, if you believe in that particular instance that, you were there, what the conditions were, what was happening around you prior to that moment and after. And if you believe that came from a spiritual place, then I would say it probably did.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I think too. I think a lot of that stuff, especially when it comes to family, whatever it is that you're getting from that, whatever you're feeling, I feel like, that's what, who's to say that it's not, who's to say it's not that,
Yeah.
And I know we almost ran out of time, and I wanted to know what your thoughts were on the freaking Bermuda Triangle.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we're almost out of time though. It's going to take an hour to discuss.
Yeah, there are a couple phenomena that seem to have they come in cycles, right? They you hear a lot about them, then a long period of time goes by and you don't. And the Bermuda Triangle is kind of one of those. There was a period where it was all this stuff was happening and these reports and then it's been kind of quiet. Do you know Josh Warren?
No.
Okay. He's a fairly well-respected Bermuda Triangle researcher. He actually has I don't know if he lives in Puerto Rico or something, but he's like down there all the time looking into this. And I had him on the program not long ago, and he was talking about so many parts of this story that I was not aware existed. You hear the stories about the squadron of fighters aircraft that disappeared. Those things are crazy enough. Or you hear about the ship that comes out with no crew on it. Those are crazy stories. But there's actually a lot more to it than that. And I'm not the one to even try to tell these stories because I don't know them well enough, but they're there. And I would say that if anybody has this kind of curiosity about the Bermuda Triangle, you should really look into it some more, because I think this is one of those topics that has kind of fallen out of favor in discussions. Like, we don't talk about it much on my program. But it shouldn't be, because it's still quite an enigma, and it deserves some more conversation.
Yes, I agree. Oh my gosh, are your shows? Are they saved? You know what I mean?
So we broadcast live at 11 o'clock Monday through Friday Eastern. However, you can go to there's two places that they're archived. One is YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for my name, JV Johnson. You'll find it. There's like 600 episodes there. And it's also available as a podcast the day after the live program. And you can find that on any major podcast distribution platform: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all those places. And just search for Beyond Paranormal. JV Johnson. Awesome. Yeah, it's all there.
I'm going to try to if I I just go on YouTube and I'll be able to see it live.
Yeah, it'll be streaming live on YouTube as well every night. Yep.
I'm gonna just type it in here. Beyond reality paranormal.
Yeah, Beyond Reality Paranormal. Or if you just search my name too, you'll find it. JV Johnson. Either way.
It wouldn't be a show.
I was trying to say it too.
Without the barking. I mean, right? Every show. Yeah. So I definitely want to see it, because I'm very interested in the Bermuda Triangle. That is just to me is amazing. Did you ever see the show The Unexplained with, I always talk about this too, with Bill Shatner? He's the host of it. It's called The Unexplained.
I've seen the show. I've seen that it exists. I've never watched it.
Such a good show.
Really? Okay.
Yes. It really is such a good show. It's educational because there's so many things that you learn, but it's also got the paranormal twist in there or the unexplained twist in there. And I'm addicted to it. I love it.
Oh, okay. This is the one that William Shatner hosts?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's called The Unexplained. And it is just such a good show. I mean, Tara shared that in our group. Good show. Yeah, good show. Everybody's saying it's a good show. Who's stepping on the dog? Nobody's stepping on the dog. He always barks. But I'm definitely going to check your show out. I love that. I love that you have all those different topics, and you know what I mean? It's just not the same thing over and over. Like Sabrina said, it's not the same thing over and over again, and I know we've run out of time, but I absolutely would love to have I would love to have you on again,
Anytime. Love to. I had a great time.
Yeah. Definitely be checking out your show. Now, when we watch it on YouTube and stuff like that, is there like a way that you can like comment and stuff, or
there's a live chat room on the YouTube stream, and it's pretty busy. A lot of people in there generally.
That's awesome. Good for you. That's awesome. And I hope you go to Phenom. I hope you go to Phenom because there's really not much else happening. And
I'm sure I'll be there. I'll be there.
But it would be cool to hang out and just, you know what I mean?
I'll end up there. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You should. But I thank you so much for your time. I will find your show and I'm going to, share it on our brew page, the Paranormal Brews page, so people can check it out. My friend Dana said that your show is awesome. So she must. Yeah.
Our friend.
Yeah. So I think it's all. I'm gonna watch I'm gonna start watching your shows because I really they sound very interesting. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Great to see you all. I look forward to doing it again and seeing it at one of these events. Maybe it'll be Phenom.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay,
than that. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Oops. So we're still live. Next week we have
the berries, right?
No.
You don't have the berries?
Are they? The 7th, no, October 7th. Is that next week already?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's the berries.
Guys, I don't know if I will be in there. There's a case coming through, so I might have to deal with people, helping people. So Anthony might be here, or if he's not, I'll let you know. Maybe we'll have somebody else join you and to help you out. But I'm calling for people who have children, and I got to be there. Paranormal stuff, bad stuff. So
Saturday, I'll be going to Selma for the Brian Cano's the exhibit. He used 2 of my photos, so I absolutely want to go see that. That'll be awesome. Bill Freeman was on here, So we'll be at Selma for that, and then next week we have the Barry, so it'll be cool. And hopefully you can join us. If not, totally understandable. Helping the people comes first, obviously.
Yeah. I'll let you know, and this way you can find somebody if he's working and I'm doing the case. So
what, this Wednesday?
Wednesday. So Joanne just messaged me. I'm like, Paranormal Brew, but they kids need help. I have to help those kids so they're not scared. You know how that goes in the paranormal world. You're like 24/7 sometimes. And I've been out of the loop for a while with the paranormal, but I'm still consultant, and, it's kind of kicked up a little bit. Got a couple of cases coming in. So gotta help out. And then also, Selma Mansion. I might be there with you. I don't know, soccer games, mom stuff, because I didn't even know it was during the day. For some reason, I was thinking that it was a night thing. And then
investigation.
Anthony said it was like 12 to 5. I'm like, oh my God, I definitely have soccer and moving, furniture out of the house for a move or selling the house. So hopefully we'll be there with you though. you know, at least some part of the time.
Maybe join us for dinner after. Apparently, you're gonna go to dinner
at some point. Hopefully, I catch up with you guys.
Yeah. I'm excited.
All right, I'm gonna hang up off of this live.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys.
Bye everybody. Thanks
I forgot we were live.
The tequila's kicking in.
Good night, guys.
Bye.